try. Oh, yeah. How do I swap my screen? So, oh, let's do it in Dream. What's up, everybody? It's Ali. Okay, let's not do that. When I moved it 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 did its own thing. What's up? What's up? What's up? Y'all, welcome back to my channel. It is Ali. But where's Ali, y'all? And I am excited, first of all, that I could go live first try. Let me know if you are on, if it's clear or not. I am going to get back on my secondary option to make sure that it is broadcasting properly. Y'all know we got to do all the technical. Wow, it actually looks good. Okay. I mean, so since it looks good, let's just rock and roll. As y'all can probably tell from the last live, I'm in a new spot. Y'all know that's what I do. Let me make an adjustment here. I kind of want to be centered. My bad, y'all. How's that? That's a little bit better. Okay. So I'm in a new spot from before, from I think, yeah, from the last live, because the last place I was at, the Wi-Fi was horrific. So one of the things that I suggested that they update, considering some people call it like a co-living place. Anyway, so I'm in a new spot. I'm still in Medellin, Colombia. And today I did a nice walk. I'm starting like this process of getting my life physically and mentally back together, y'all. And so I decided, because it always ruins, yeah, I always like get so caught up in things if I don't do things first thing in the morning, and I'm not a morning workout person. But I'm gonna try to do it that way, because anything else just gets lost in the shuffle and gets all messed up. But in speaking about those things, I was having a conversation with a fellow American, y'all. So I'm coming with you guys today to talk about American privilege when traveling, right? So a lot of times we hear the word privilege, and especially as Black Americans, you know, we hear it all the time, and it's not usually directed in our favor. But there is such a thing as just bona fide American privilege. And I think, you know, given how much I've traveled, that it didn't occur to me until last year when I was in Africa and I realized some of the things I would say. And I was having a conversation with a fellow American in another part of Medellin last week, actually. And we were talking about this, and it's clear that it's just not something we naturally think about, right? And it starts to put the whole idea of privilege in perspective. Like when people say, well, I don't really think of it that way, I don't look at it that way. Well, American passport holders and users have a level of privilege that a lot of people around the world don't have. And with so many people getting ready to travel or starting to travel, and I say that given the numbers that I got from the Travel State Gov site from the US around, big fly flew in my window, around how many people are applying for their passport in the last so since 2018, so the last 6, 7, 8 years, the number of applications for passports has gone up. And some of the questions that I get from some of my colleagues, some of my friends, some new people that I meet and such, around, hold on, you guys. Sure, my chat is live. Is, not really understanding how to move about in the world, right? And not realizing that sometimes just getting up, and this is something Black people, we should understand way more probably than a lot of other people, is that we can be offensive and not realize that we're being offensive. And so I'm here to help clear the air, to share some of the things that we do that could get us in, like a hot seat or some stares or not such positive responses, and ways for us to kind of move about with less stigmas, right? And it's, what's funny is I wasn't even thinking about the Brittany Griner or the what's the dude, the commentator guy or journalist or whatever that was just found suspiciously unalived, suspiciously covering the World Cup. And both of them were doing things in other countries that is quote unquote illegal, and both are American. And I wasn't even thinking about them, but I will add that commentary to this discussion, right? So I'm gonna, and please, if you guys are on, first, thank y'all for joining, of course. That's my little prelude, prologue, whatever you say, the beginning of what we're going to be talking about today. And I wanted this to be a live so that you guys can jump in and talk about your experiences as well, with traveling abroad. If you've run into anything where, you kind of maybe were taken aback by the way a person responded to you doing something, or, I've had some situations where I was talking to people and I was like, oh, you offended them, and who the people I was speaking to were American or are American, and they were just like, oh, I didn't realize. There's a lot of things that we imply, do, or say, and we don't realize that we're speaking from a place of privilege, and sometimes that can be hurtful to other people. So if I'm gonna prepare y'all and give y'all like the best travel tools and a way to get your trip like kicked off and start doing this thing and considering long travel, then I probably should also tell you about other things that we do that we're very nonchalant about, but that could land us in a hot seat or just not fare well, with us from a long-term perspective. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to talk about, that just is privilege all by itself, without any, you don't have to add anything to it. Hold on, I'm gonna get it for you. I'm gonna get our first thing that defines our privilege. Y'all know what it is. The Little Blue Book, right? You guys hear me say this all the time. This is what I consider the American dream, not the house with the picket fence and the 2 cars and the baby and a half and the dog and the cat. Like, that to me is American privilege, or American dream. That's American debt. I define it a little bit different. We all define things different, y'all. It's okay. But this little book right here, this is to me the dream. This is what gives me the privilege that I would love to have in my own country, but don't always have. This little blue book, and there was about 4 years in recent years that I would hide this blue book because I didn't want to be associated with what was affiliated, not necessarily the country as a whole, although we do come off really bad in other countries, but our leadership was so questionable that people were just like, oh my God, please don't tell me you're from. Okay, so anyway, this book has regained its favor. You know, when COVID hit, we took a hit and we did not have the number one passport. I think we're back up there, you know. And having the number one passport is based on where you can go with your passport, how many countries you can enter. And I think we can enter all except maybe one. I don't even know if there's any places that we can't enter. Cuba used to be high on that list, but of course, you know, that's not the case anymore. And, you know, how many places your passport by itself acts as your visa. So, so that defines a lot of the power that we have, right? So just to give you guys a little bit of history, this was one of the things I thought was semi-difficult to get like nailed down, because if you just Google it, the numbers are all over the place. So go to travel.state.gov site, which is a US based site. You know, it has government statistics and things like that, including how many people in the United States have a passport. That number, when I started looking it up initially, was, you know, 42%, 48%, something like that. And we know we have a little over 300 million people in the US. I think 357 million. I don't know, y'all. It's just that number just rolled off. It just feels right, okay? And as of 2022, this is what the site said. There's approximately 151 million Americans, Northern Americans, people from the United States, because if I say Northern America, that counts Canada. If I say America, that's going to be one of the things I talk about. If I say America, we're not count anyway. So United States of American citizens have a passport. Now, what's interesting about that is if there's about 357 million, something like that, you know, population, we, you know, subtract, you know, the, I don't know, 12 to however many percent are kids, or whatever the percent is for 18. I saw it. I don't remember what it is. Y'all can look it up. Subtract that, because, you know, but not even that, because you can get babies passports. So ignore that whole comment. That's roughly about 50%, a little less than 50%, anywhere probably from 45 to 48% of the United States people own a passport, right? Which is something that I think I've been saying for the last few years, is it's surprising that we don't have a passport, especially when you travel and you see how easy it is technically for us to get a passport. And I know when I make that statement, this conversation isn't just about how we impact people abroad, but also how we impact each other, you know, when we say certain things. And so I know, like, a lot of times, especially when I talk about traveling, I talk about the opportunities of traveling, what travel gives you, and travel education and experience and exposure and all those things. And a lot of people are like, you know, Ali, everybody can't do what you do. That's true. But that doesn't mean that everybody can't travel. Okay, but I'm gonna give you a couple statistics around, you know, that I had to kind of settle with to understand why it may be that the numbers are so low. So all the way through 2008, I want to say, I think it was around 2008, up until around 2008, you did not need a passport to go to Mexico, Canada, or the Caribbean. And I know that for a fact because in 2000 and sometime when my son was 7, so 1998, we went to Mexico and we didn't need passports. We was in Mexico. Like, we wasn't on a cruise, we was up in Mexico, walking around, didn't need passports. So if you take into account that about 20 years ago, 22, 25 years ago, most of the surrounding areas around the United States, you weren't required to have a passport to visit them. That can explain why, because it's not that we weren't traveling, because when you travel to different countries in the Americas, you'll find that there are a lot of there's a lot of American history, a lot of American relationships and things like that. If you go to different countries, like when I was in Mexico, they know so much about American movie history. And it's like, how do you know this? And it's because we've been there for so long. The other thing is, so back then, only 20, 25 years ago, y'all, only about 15% of Americans, United States citizens, let me say it that way, held a U.S. passport, this blue book. 15%. And now we're about 50%. So in 20 years, with the peak around 2018, 2019, so around there, the applications for passports was the highest that had ever been, like 19 million passport applications in 1 year, y'all. So we don't want to think about this. That's why I tell people, I think I was saying back in 2018, 2019, get your passport. We know what happened. Get your passport, 2017, get your passport. And so now people are, we're feeling the wave of that, right? But one of the things that, we don't think about is the freedom and flexibility this gives us. And how much privilege we have just having, right? So the first thing that I think, that we do is we just assume, especially as travelers, it's things that, you don't necessarily assume, but, it's that idea that, well, if we can get a passport, then everybody else can in other countries. Now, that doesn't mean that their passport is as strong. Hey, if you guys are checking in, please let me know that you're there. Give me some thumbs up, likes or something, or comment that you're here and where you're checking in from. I appreciate you guys jumping in, and please share y'all experiences. I love to interact if at all possible. Actually, I'll go on here on my other chat. So one of the things that I think we do from a privilege standpoint is assume that everybody has access to a passport and that everybody can get one. And so a United States passport is about $160, I think, for an adult passport. I think it's a little less for kids. For kids under 18, it lasts for 5 years. Once you hit 18, 16 or 18, one of the two, your passport is good for 10 years. Right? So $160 divided by 10 is like $16 a year. Right? Something like that. It's basically what you're paying. And what I've had to learn to do is be sensitive to the idea that not everybody, it's not even so much that everybody can't afford a passport, because even people who do drugs got more money sometimes than I do. It's just their focus is somewhere else. Okay, let's if we're gonna be real about it, let's just be real. A lot of times we have access to money. It's just what we do with the money. And I'm not saying everybody, because there are some people. I remember a time when I slept on the floor in a closet with my child. So yeah, no, I didn't have money for a passport, but did I have my passport then? I can't remember, right? So I know there are times that, and there's situations that don't allow for us to get one. So what I've had to learn is that sensitivity, to that aspect of it. But the other part of it too is sometimes one of the things I want to, kind of make people aware of is when people are talking about things that really don't apply to you, don't get offended. right? So if you are a person, and a lot of times I'm talking to people, hey Shana, what's up, chica? um, I'm only on the very first thing, so please jump in and share your experience. One of the things that I think happens a lot is we get offended by things that don't apply to us, or the person isn't talking to us. I remember my dad used to say, if the shoe fits, wear it, right? But a lot of times when the shoe fits, we're upset that the shoe fits. Well, it's not the person who's talking who you should be upset about necessarily. Sometimes things hit our spirit because it's supposed to hit our spirit, right? And there's really different reasons that we react to different things. So I want to kind of state that, although it don't matter, you know what, if you got something negative to say, I mean, people be jumping on my posts and be saying crazy stuff. Please jump in and say something crazy, because I'm ready. I got my chat ready. I'm ready to read some stuff. Tell me what y'all think. And so, with that being said, I'm gonna go here in the beginning. This is for anybody who desires to travel, is passionate to travel, can't wait to travel. When am I gonna be able to travel? How can I travel like you, Ali? And I'm talking about like the stuff that be in my inbox and the messages that I get and conversations that I have and stuff like that. So there is this dire desire to get out here and get into the world and do some things. And keep in mind, you guys, travel doesn't have to just be international, but a lot of people do want to travel internationally, right? So with that in mind, the first thing I say is anything you decide to do, you can do. That's the first thing, right? And so as part of this privilege thing, this thing of access, which means that, we can move about a lot easier than other people, but we just don't take advantage of it. And then, having this privilege or having access to kind of move about and do things, we miss some of the other things that are associated with it, right? So the very first thing I say to people is, if it's something that you want, you just have to get in the right spaces, first of all, around the right company to help get you to that place, especially if you got a plan for it. You got to, but I got kids and if you start every sentence, it's going to be just, I'm just going to say these things before I get into the list of stuff. If you start every sentence with but I can't, but I have to, but I need to do this. You can't say that, because everybody, if that's how you start, then this is not about you, right? When you get to a point where but does not enter, and everybody knows where they are. I mean, I even had to get to these points. Even like just finally getting up this morning, going, get up and get out and do some exercise. There is no but. There is no, but I decided to start working, and so I couldn't today. You know what? Because I'm the one who feels awful. I'm the one who is not doing what I know I'm capable of doing. There is no but. We got to take accountability, all right? So when you get to the point where you are not butting yourself, then you can move into some of these spaces and start doing some of these things that allow you to have some of this privilege that you are going to be conscious of, so at least you're not offended, okay? But we just want to be aware. All right, so our passport alone gives us American privilege. We got Western privilege all day, okay? The very fact that we can get a passport so easily, you guys, we can pay for a passport through the mail. We can go to Walgreens, take a picture, send it in the mail, and get a book back that allows us to move around this globe if we've got the money. And sometimes it ain't that cheap. If you follow me, you will find that you can move around very inexpensively. And no, you don't always have to have a credit card. That's just the way I pay for things, because, I need to pay for things other ways, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's a conversation for another day. If you want to have a conversation around how do you travel for less, one-on-one with me, and we'll do some consultation and talk about, ways to save and stuff. Okay, y'all? But the fact that we can mail in, we can send it in the mail and get a blue book that allows us the privilege, and a privilege is not something that's just given to you by birth. And that's a whole nother conversation. We talk about rights and privileges and stuff like that. A privilege is something that you have access to if you perform something, if you do something, in this case, apply, right? And you don't have any other stipulations or rules against you, like felonies and, which I think that's a bunch of crap. If you've served your time, give them their passport. Child support is now a reason why you can't get your passport. Just a couple of little things, so you kind of lose your privileges when you make mistakes and things like that, right? But we are in one of the countries that it is very easy, and I'm telling you, if you save $10 a month, even for 16 months, you can get a passport. It's that important. But what I often find is the people who say that they can't blow a lot of money. We eat out. You can eat out 5 times in 1 month and be able to pay for a passport. You can put aside buying some shoes or I don't know, whatever your luxury expenses are. You can set, it's called discipline, and you can get a passport. So I just throw out those things because a lot of times people are like, yeah, but I can't. No, it's not always I can't. Sometimes it's I won't. All right. And so, but that doesn't negate the fact that it is a privilege that we have, because it's pretty easy to get this key that unlocks so much. This unlocks history, this unlocks truths, this unlocks every lie that we have been told. This thing right here, it unlocks it, okay? You need to get one. So that's the first thing I want us to understand is the book in itself is a huge privilege, and not, first of all, not taking advantage of it is something that I think we really need to think about. Shana, okay, I'm sorry. I agree. You have to create strategic plan to make things happen. We have so few privileges that we really should take advantage. Especially this one, especially before they take it away. We worried about them taking voting away as Black people, which could happen because it's an addendum to a law. You have to wonder why it's an addendum to a law, right? Is when it's a right to have certain things or whatever. Well, okay, that's a conversation for another day. Okay, so I need to block 669. One moment. Let me block somebody. Don't come on my page posting, trying to post stuff about sex. We not doing that today. We talking about American privilege. All right. Okay. So that's number one. All right, y'all. Okay. All right. So now let's get into some of the other things. Because I'm gonna get back to the passport thing, the thing that the passport gives us, and if you guys have experiences, please chime in. But some of the other things that we do, or subconsciously or consciously, that are like this, privilege. As Westerners, okay, one of the first things I'm gonna say is we say, like, when somebody says, "Where are you from?" I personally don't ever say the U.S. Because if you watch my other videos, as we get into this, you'll kind of hear, why. But a lot of times, we as people from the United States say America. And what's funny is it has been such a custom thing that a lot of people just think America. Well, there's 3 Americas. And it's funny, as U.S. citizens, we don't consider anything America except North America, which includes Canada, right? But we'll say, somebody said, "Where you're from?" Well, a lot of times we don't say U.S. We don't, or sometimes we say the states. and the States is really indicative of the United States. But I hear people say America, and I'll go, which one? And they'll be like, or when someone asks me, I'll say from the Americas, or I'll say from a country out, a different country in like Central America, and they have no idea where that is. So it's really interesting that, it doesn't take much to channel a person's mentality, what they think and what they believe and their perception of things, right? So that's why we have such a huge impact on, just the outlook and how people think. But the idea that we just automatically assume, and maybe we aren't thinking about it, and we should, that you go to Belize, or I'm in Colombia and someone says, where are you from? And if I say America, how pompous is that? Without even thinking about it, right? Is that a privilege thing, or is that just an uneducated thing? Is it a thing that I'm not even thinking that there's three other Americas where we're still in America when I say that? It's just little things to think about, and things that people have brought to my attention, when they question or go, they give you that look and you're like, what did I say? What did I do? Oh, we are in America. Well, which America? Which country? Which country? Not continent. We say America's a continent. So funny, y'all. I be getting geography lessons. Y'all know me and geography, we wasn't best of friends back in the day, right? Okay, so that's one. Another privilege is when we go to other places and we call everything third world. Ooh, let me just tell you how that just agitates me. I can't stand the fact that we literally walk around and define everything else, most other places in the world, even places that are beautiful and, they've got, you go to Maldives or whatever, and we're outside of the bungalows, we're not hanging around in the Maldives. We would consider it third world. And what are the things that we base third world on? Infrastructure, water. Do they have clean drinking water? We also, can look at things like, what's my list? Incarceration numbers. I know people don't look at that, but I do. Prison, okay, incarceration, I already said that. Homelessness. We already talked bad infrastructure. I say homelessness, orphans, misplaced children, things like that impact society, right? To me, those are things that add up to what's third world. So how pompous is it for someone from the United States to we call other places third world? We have cities in the United States that haven't had clean drinking water for years. So why do we do this UNICEF thing? We start playing that heart music. We start talking about other countries. I get offended. I get so offended when I hear somebody say third world. I'm like, first of all, it's such a negative it's such a horrible thing to say. What does that even mean? You mean third, or third level economy, or third level infrastructure, or something like that? When we say third world, it's insulting. Sometimes we don't realize it. But it's insulting. Have we been to some of the places we call third world? Like I think just recently we took China out of that, and that's because China owns half of the United States. But have you ever been there? Have you seen their infrastructure? Have you seen their design, their cities? Like, wow. Mexico. In the United States, our government dogs Mexico. Hey, y'all been to Mexico? And I'm not talking about every single place, because we got places in the United States that are so rural, they don't have running water. I mean, the systems are old, and you know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the things that I think we subconsciously, we just think that we are in the greatest nation in the world. And we can say that just to be saying it because we hold a lot of pride, but we can't just say it nonchalantly when we go places and not think that it's not offensive. It's offensive, you know what I'm saying? So, okay. We don't consider the other Americas at all because we're taught to be arrogant and have tunnel vision. Snap, 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 snap. Now that I've traveled a little, I'm embarrassed that I use the term third world. Yeah, I mean it's like we don't think about it until you're sitting and you start to compare, well, what do we consider third world? And then people are like, and this is the other thing. A lot of times, if you try to explain to people how much, if we talk about, what is it, Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia, and we talk about the homelessness in California, and the lack of drinking water in Michigan, and I think, like, is it Arkansas? Is it Louisiana? Arkansas? I know Louisiana still got some issues from Hurricane Katrina. God forbid that. But Texas, there's a couple cities that have drinking water issues. It's funny when I would share that with people and go, the United States has issues as well. People literally were like, "That's not true. That's not true." That's not true. The only issue we got is crime, And I'm just like, oh my God, like we have bad infrastructure. We have poorly built homes. We have, areas where people have deserted cities. And I mean, if you go to Detroit, it's, you got ghost towns and stuff like that because, you have major industries that have left those areas and left them depleted because everybody was surviving off of Ford or GM or whatever was up there, right? I lived in a small town when I grew up, and when I go back, which I don't anymore, it's probably been 10, 15 years since I've been back, we had a couple factories. One was Kraft, and everybody in Champaign, Illinois worked at Kraft. And if you didn't work at Kraft, you worked at the University of the U of I, right? And so when you don't have those, you've got all these other little things, or you work around the city, Rantoul and Urbana, which is still part of Champaign, and Decatur, and all of these other places, right? But everything is based on these specific industries and what happens when those industries fail, right? So we as Americans, it's like as North Americans, United States passport holders, we naturally, for whatever reason, not whatever reason, we know we've been told this, we know media says this, we think that we overlook all of the disparities in the United States and just automatically think that everybody is worse than us. Y'all, I have been to some places that are just magnificent. Okay? Yeah, they might need some help with where they put the toilets, in terms of like design, but I think that's just like anything. It's just somebody who's not thinking. But I've been to some places that you would think, okay, the water gonna be brown, because everybody's like, please don't drink the water, and I'm just like, I've been gone for almost 3 years, and I brush my teeth with faucet water everywhere I've been. If I run out of water, I boil water and use it to cook with, and I haven't had any issues, and maybe it's, better health. I don't know. Everybody don't do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? We all should know our health, but automatically assuming that places are bad. Number one, because of our media. That's probably the top thing I should have said, is the fact that we believe our media. That is a privilege to walk around and say, and not know anything, and sometimes not even travel to a place. I just jump from one thing to the other, but not even going anywhere. Do you know how many people in the United States will literally dog another country they ain't never been to because something in the media said that it is less than? It's third world. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys, we gotta stop. We gotta stop doing that. I've learned some lessons, and some of the things, like, I wouldn't say out loud, but I think it, right? When I went to Mexico and stayed for 4 months, you don't know how much I beat myself up. Y'all have heard this story. If you have watched my videos and you heard me talk about when I first started this journey, you heard me literally talk about how I literally could smack myself over and over for the simple fact that I literally believed, I believe the United States government was, being honest about the infrastructure, the design, the cities, the government, whatever, from these other places. I'm not saying these places are great and so much better. What I am saying is this we have this propensity to put ourselves on a pedestal, which ain't nothing really wrong with that. Just understand that it can be offensive when you go to other places, right? So I'm going to tell you why this could get us in trouble. There are places around the world where you cannot publicly speak against the government. You cannot publicly say negative things about the, prime minister, whoever's in charge, whatever they call it, not a president, it could be, prime ministers, whatever their leaders. I'm trying to think of, what they call them in Africa and stuff like that. You can't speak down about it. You can't speak down about the culture and the things, the rituals that they have. You can't say this stuff out loud, right? I met a guy, Yolo, from China when I was in Morocco. And Yolo's 70-year-old, solo Chinese man, breaking all the barriers and all the rules, and he was on this tour that I went on in Morocco. And he didn't speak a lot of English, but we used a lot of translator. He spoke, what did he speak? Spanish. Because there was a family there that was interpreting for him, right? And he was a really cool guy. I got some pictures. I should pull them up while I'm sitting here. I'm not. Okay. And so he talked about how it had always been his dream and desire to travel because it wasn't something that was really easy for him to do. His kids were older and, he was divorced or whatever. And so he was solo, not married. And so he started traveling and he, just talked about it wasn't something that, you just walk up and just say, oh yeah, I want a passport. I want a Chinese passport. They paid the amount of money they had to pay, the rules and, the process to be approved for it was tough because he's had it for years. And he's traveled at the time when I met him, which was in 2018, I think. He had already traveled to 70 countries and the United States was one of those. And, so his view on so many things was so much more vast than mine. I've only been to, I think I'm almost hitting 30 countries, new countries, unique countries. And his experience and what he could share, he was like, oh, so when I met him, Trump was in office. And, we would say, people would talk about, just talk about it. He was like, oh my God, we can never do that. We could never publicly, he said, you could be lashed, imprisoned, put to death, whatever, for things that you say. And so I think this is this is probably one of the biggest things that gets us in trouble is freedom of speech. Ain't free everywhere. It ain't even free in the US. We just get away with a lot of stuff, right? Like the things that we say, the things that we say publicly, you can't go everywhere and do and say those types of things. It could land you in a lot of trouble. Okay? So just FYI. And then some of the behaviors, some of the things that we do, like, January 6th last year, this year, earlier this year, people walking around making videos talking about what they were going to do and not getting in trouble and, I ain't worried I'm going to be on a plane tomorrow. Just the pompousness and this whole thing that the government can't touch me and stuff like that. You can't, there's very few places you can go in the world and be like that. You can't even really walk around Europe and, just spew off at the mouth like you can in America. And so it always makes me think, when people are like, I want to come to America, it's so free. And I'm just like, first of all, it's not free. That's another thing we'll talk about. It's not free in America. But what we are allowed, I understand. It's like having McDonald's for the first time, right? You've been eating beans and rice and some meat stew or whatever all your life. That's a luxury, that you got the meat with it, and you can have fish, and you're eating every day so good. But the first day you get that KFC or that McDonald's and stuff, and you're just like, oh, so they can eat this every day if they want to. I think that's the fallacy. It's those little nuanced kind of things that a lot of us don't even want to do in the States. We're like, that's horrible food, you don't want to eat that, right? But I think that's what people think when they think, it's free and you can do what you want. And we can say what we want for the most part. There are some consequences at times and things like that, we've seen them. But for the most part, like, we can always claim freedom of speech. Of course, there could be a fine, a penalty for saying things or for agreeing with things or posting something crazy, right? So are we getting more into a dictatorship where now you can't say things, you can't post things because somebody's going to be offended by it? Or do we want to stay the way that we are? Okay, so let me get back, y'all. So freedom of speech is a big thing that is a United States privilege, where we go into other countries and just think that we can do and say whatever. We can walk somewhere and be, know about their politics and start talking about them. Like when COVID hit, I was in Tanzania, and it was either people were for Magufuli or against him. And then when he passed, that was a huge thing. And it was like, you could not be out on the street, like just really bad mouthing. That's just not, you couldn't do that, right? There are places, I think either Mexico, Belize, where, you have the Mayan temples, and even in Egypt, you're not supposed to climb. They've got guards and all that stuff around, and I just saw some post where some girl climbed one of the pyramids or the temples, and the women or the locals around it were screaming, "Sacrifice her." You can't just do what you want to do, y'all. We can't, like the kid way back 20, 30 years ago that got caned, the American kids that were in Singapore, was it? I think it was. And I think smoking weed or whatever publicly. I can't remember exactly what it was. And they went over somewhere and got in trouble and thought that they could use that American privilege and they would get, out of it. And it doesn't always work that way. So that's the thing, is understand that the freedoms and the privileges that we have with our judicial system, and some of us can get away with anything. All we got to do is call our parents, and our parents will call our attorneys, and they'll get us off. Watch what happened with Brittany Griner. She was almost in Russian prison for a year. And don't tell me that's the first time she took a vape pen. She'd been playing in Russia for 8 years, I think, y'all. No, this was solely about, I'm off track, I know. This was solely about that trade. So don't think it had anything to do with no doggone vape pen. Give me a break. Okay. So when we don't put any thought into our behavior and we expect the world to move because we say so, that's privilege, right? When we think that we can go somewhere else, and because we have this blue book, because I'm visiting and I'm American, I can do what I want to do, and my daddy is. Yeah, that's privilege. It's the privilege to even think that you can do that. We can't do that, y'all. Stop doing that, all that kind of stuff. Listen, it's almost like when we say, I booked a trip, I leave tomorrow. How do I get my passport? I didn't realize it expired. Well, call your senator and but we mad at our representatives and stuff because they're not doing enough for us, but we got them going and getting us a passport because we weren't accountable enough to make sure that we had our stuff together. Come on, y'all. That's privilege. That's privilege in America. Okay. Privilege is when we go to other places condemning like their culture. I'm not saying I like any of this, but let's say you go to certain places and women's rights, because there's a lot of that going on right now. And I have been to some places that I know that I can't live in. I may just visit and stuff, and it's because of their religious beliefs and their culture, the way that they do things. Totally respect it. I will cover up. I'll do whatever I'm supposed to do while I'm there. But I realize it's probably not a place that I would live in. And that is my respect, is that I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do so that I follow the guidelines and respect what you all believe. But I also will respect myself and not put myself in a position. I did that last year, not even realizing that, ew, God, that just struck me to a nerve. Well, the privilege is me being able to get up and leave, right? That's a privilege. Like, I was just like, yeah, I don't like this. Okay, I'm gonna get on a bus and go somewhere else. That's privilege. Y'all been gone for 30 months. Well, technically 24 months, 26 months out of the last 30 months. Just bopping around. That's privilege. That's privilege. But going someplace and thinking that you don't like the way they treat the women, or you don't like how they are with LGBTQ, or you don't like what they do with children, or something like that. But we don't address anything that happens in the United States. We act like we don't have sex trafficking. Texas is like the #2 place of sex trafficking. I don't even remember at the time what was #1. It was either California or something right on the border. So anyway, we don't address, we literally just changed laws that said women ain't got no rights to their reproductive systems. Yeah, we just went back 50 years. Right? But we will go to another place and say, oh, you shouldn't go there because the women don't, the way they treat, and I understand there's levels to it. I get it. But how do we, that's privilege. That's pompousness. I don't even know if it's privilege anymore. Like, we have gone beyond the level of privilege when we think we can go somewhere else and condemn them for the things that they do, and we never even consider the fact that we do the same things, right? We're sitting in a country, the free, this is the land of the free. America is so free, right? But we are, depending on who you are, you're being stripped little by little of your freedoms. Just saying. Yes, it definitely privilege to be able to come and go as you please. Yes, ma'am. What are some of the things that y'all like realize that are just like privileges? Like, I'm grateful every day. Let me just tell you how grateful I am. I'm to move around the way that I'm moving around is a privilege. Without a plan, I don't have to have security. I don't have to have, I mean, some places you probably want that, but where I am, I mean, I can freely walk around and I'm not harassed or anything. I don't know if I blend in. Yeah, I'm down with the blend in, so people just leave me alone. I have a very small footprint. I keep quiet. Respect and all of that, but just realizing each and every day that I get up and I'm sitting in another country, touring it, quote unquote, as a tourist, but living every day like a local, walking around, shopping how I want, using my credit card, using my cash, whatever, not speaking the language. Oh, privilege. Going places and not speaking the language, but surviving every day is a privilege, right? So first thing, one of the things we as Americans saying, this just blows my mind, is how you gonna live in America and you don't speak the language? which language are we talking about? Because English wasn't necessarily the native tongue. I mean, we don't really know, right? But we can assume it wasn't. But the first thing we'll do is we expect everybody else when they come to the United States to speak some sort of English. And we get frustrated. We get so upset. Can't understand it. And we'll go to another place. We won't even practice saying hello and thank you. And they're supposed to welcome us because we're spending money there. Yeah, that's privilege. That's pompous privilege right there. And if I'm hitting a nerve on anything, you like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I expect them to move. When I say something, I think they should get up and, if you think like that, that's privilege. You are using the access this gives you to walk around and say that you could treat other people a certain way. You know what I'm saying? There's no official language in the US. And I think technically it should be Spanish. I think Spanish is more universal. I think that, English is because, everybody speaks English. Not everybody, but you know what I'm saying. Like major hubs, everybody will speak. You'll have more people speaking English than any other, what we would consider secondary language, Mandarin or Kiswahili, any of the European languages, because there's many of them, Arabic and things like that. But I contend as I travel in all the other Americas, besides one country, all the other Americas, and a good section over there in Europe speak Spanish. I don't know. Because we can't even say Britain is like a big, because Britain is like this island. It's like the smallest thing. They just control a whole lot. Right? So, I don't know. I'm just saying. I think it should be Spanish too. I mean, it really should. Which is like, I'm literally sitting here going, okay, when I get my life together and I sit down for a year, no matter where I am, I'm going to engulf myself in learning Spanish. Now, I know it's better if I do it while I'm sitting here. I don't know how long I'll be in Spanish speaking world, but I do want to pick it up because, and it takes some years. I'm at that age now where it's going to take me some years to get it, because I'd be like, ¿cómo se dice? What? Not como se dice, what did you say? Like, not how do you say it? Like, what did you, anyway. So, just thinking that, having an expectation for other people, thinking that our way of life, the way that we speak, everybody should, gravitate to it and welcome it, and that's privilege. Why are we gonna go somewhere else and be talking about you don't speak English? No, I don't speak no English. You ain't got no translator on your phone. Right? We're the land of the free. We have access to everything, right? That's privilege. Then why are we expecting somebody else to be more palatable, to be more receptive and giving, and be able to function more than we are when we have access to everything? Right? We should be able to learn another language pretty easy. We got access. We've been having Rosetta Stone for the last 25 years. Rosetta be running deals too. I don't know if they any good, but I'm just saying, right? So it's just really interesting. I hope that anything that I'm saying is just like, oh wow. Because y'all, in order for me to come up with this list, like I pulled these from my little notes. Things that I'm ashamed of, and not like necessarily in a bad way, almost kind of like in some ways like comical, like you literally just did that, you literally just said that, you thought that, like, and there's nothing wrong with at least acknowledging that you didn't think of something in a negative respect, but you changed that behavior. And if you could continue to do it, you're gonna have to work that out for yourself. All right. Let's see. Okay, so let me go on with um my list. Now, if this is good and you enjoy this, please click that subscribe. I don't have my little thingy to make my subscribe pop up. The subscribe button, the notification bell, so you get notified when I post stuff. And y'all click the like button for the video today, please. That helps my videos be seen. I'm planning on what my next video is going to be about, and it might be a comparison between Colombia and Ecuador. Or maybe Colombia and another favorite city or something like that. I don't know. Y'all pick. You guys tell me maybe what I should compare, because I'm really digging Colombia and I'm super surprised. Maybe I'll compare Colombia to Mexico. Overall Colombia to overall Mexico. What do y'all think, or should I break it down to a little city? Y'all help me out. Help me decide, because I've been to some places and I would like to share some of my experience. Okay. So one of the other things I'm considering doing is I'm working on setting up like a Patreon kind of thing, so I can have like a back area for the things that I really can't say or don't want to say in a public forum, but where we use something like Discord to do some chatting, and it's not social media, so you don't have to worry about like there being bots and stuff like that. I want to have a way to have open communication where you're not worried about this platform that someone's regulating, or somebody's going to come in and type the sex stuff in there and stuff like that. Would you guys be interested in being a part of that, where we maybe meet once a month and talk about concerns, thoughts, things that you'll see in some of these groups, and then people get hammered and shut down so quickly because they say something, but make it an open, comfortable space where you can actually share some of your thoughts or ask the questions that you might be a little more timid to ask in some of the public forums because of the way that people respond. So I'm wanting to do something like that, because that's even the next level to a one-on-one with me. It opens you up to everybody that would be in our community. So let me know if that's something that you guys would be interested in doing, because I think that's the route that I will be going in, because we have things to share, and I consider myself a global citizen. Any of the global citizens tuned in, I am a global citizen, and I think we can really impart some good information with each other as we're starting to grow, right? So if that's your thing and you're interested in that, please, let me know, because I think I'm going to start it and see where it takes us. Okay. So we've talked about a number of the things that we do. Just generally, a lot of times we'll go places and we don't respect the culture, the religion, the rules that they have in place. When I was in Zanzibar, all of Tanzania, I think it was after I left Zanzibar. I was in Zanzibar for a month, and then I was in Dar es Salaam and some other cities in Tanzania for the next 7 months. And during that time, they ended up passing this rule, because they have women have to cover their shoulders, and your pants or whatever need to be down to your knees. Now it's not that way between Thursday night and Saturday night. You can wear whatever you want to wear Thursday night, Saturday night. But typically, specifically in Zanzibar, in Stone Town, you're supposed to be fully covered. You can be walking around with swimsuits on and all this. And they had passed this rule when I was there that you will be fined if they see you out in the streets disrespecting the culture, or you'll get a $700 fine. If you are on a tour, your tour guide, that company could be also fined $700, which would be a detriment, to them as well. Thank you, Shanna. That's awesome. I'm gonna see who else would. I think we can learn a lot. I just backtracked. I'm sorry. I just saw your note. And so they passed that rule And that was one of the reasons why I knew Tanzania really wasn't for me. I know some people don't have an issue with that, but it's one of the things that I'm bothered with is when it's hot as HE double hockey sticks and I can't wear a tank top. Or if I do, everybody is looking at me like I'm crazy because I'm walking around with a tank top on. And I'm saying it's not all the time, because I would even base it on if I saw an older woman with a tank top. I'm like, okay, she got on a tank top too. This should be okay. She got on a tank top, right? But the hiccups. But the fact that I had to even be conscious of that and worried about if somebody would say something. I respect y'all culture enough to know that that ain't for me, right? Another time this is when I was in Europe, and a lot of the tours, everybody want to take you to a cathedral, a church, something like that, and I'm okay with seeing the outside, maybe taking a few pictures on the inside, but I'm just like, it's cool, but I don't need to go on the inside. And it's not because of their rules of covering up or anything like that. It's not that. A lot of times it's just that I'm just not interested in going to another church, right? There's just certain things in certain places I just be like, yeah, no, I'm good, right? But I was standing outside of this place, and it was with a group, and everybody else wanted to go inside, and I think they were actually having mass too. I know I was in Spain. I was in Madrid, and they were having mass or prayer or something, and you could just walk around in the church. I mean, I didn't know until you walked in, and I was like, are they actually having a service? Why not taking pictures? And I'm like, oh my god, this is so sacrilege. We shouldn't be doing this anyway. But anyway, I left. But so we were standing at the door, and there was a family going in with teenage daughter, and she had her little shorts on, typical kid, tank or a t-shirt and some shorts, and they were like, you're gonna have to put a wrap on, you have to cover up. And she was like not having it. She was like, so she was old enough to have an opinion and comment about it. And I was just sitting there like, you're in another country in these people's home, and all they asked you to do was and they provided you with a wrap. They just asked you to wrap up. And I was just like, oh my God. And she was American. I mean, she sounded very American. The complaining sounded American, not just English speaking, it sounded American. And I was just like, and then, the parents not really saying, okay, then stand outside or whatever. I mean, she was like, why can't I go in? And I was just like, wow, okay, that's what we sound like to other people. It's almost like how we look at like the monarchy, right? Which I just look and go, how in the hell is that still like a thing? Like, there is literally a monarchy in an English speaking place where they literally have a queen or king or whatever that is the dictator. It's when you think about it, it's almost crazy, right? But all of that was brought to the forefront with the Meghan and Harry thing, right? Like, people been getting married forever over there, but it didn't occur to us until America went over and was like, wait a minute, we literally have the courtesy to say good morning to our grandmother. We just run up and hug so we can't hug. These are cultural things, y'all. Like, we don't realize these people literally live like this every day. Hey Shay, what's up, girl? He said, yeah, she was American. She was American. That child was American. I was like, if you look at your children, you know what else she was too. Anyway, what's up, Shay? We are just talking about privileged things that we do as Americans when we travel to other places. So please feel free to share. I am pouring out things that I've learned, things that I've had conversations with people about, things that I've observed and during my travels, and things that I just want to impart. Let's be conscious and not do this when we go places, because number one, certain things could get us in trouble, as we saw with Brittany Griner, as we see with people who are being questionably unalived and stuff like that, and it could have something to do with the things that they are doing and saying. One other example is a guy who was I think he was in Kenya, somewhere maybe in a slum, something, and they said stop doing the videos or whatever, and he broadcast it all, and they ended up killing him. Gotta be careful. So another thing is, you know, all right, I'm gonna give you all this. This is something that I did and didn't realize it. And I realized it last year. Like, it just hit me. Like, I was by myself. I wasn't having a conversation with anybody. I think I was just thinking, maybe I was sitting in a space of gratitude, and I was just like, man, this is like, I'm sitting in Kenya. I had been in Tanzania for 7 months. I'm in Kenya now, and I was just like, I'm just literally just moving around. I'm doing this. Like, I'm doing this. And I was sitting there, and it occurred to me that I do this thing. Or maybe it was when I was in Ecuador. I know it happened again in Ecuador, and I realized it. And I was like, I gotta be more conscious of it. Because you end up hurting people that you may have just met, locals, whatever. And if you have no conscience, so whatever, that's on you. But I am an empath as well, so it immediately hit me, right? But when we, as privileged people, including myself, I don't have abundance of money. Listen to what I'm saying. I don't have an abundance of money. I ain't got that much. I'm out here trying to survive too. Now that might be true. Matter of fact, I know it's true. But from the perspective of a local whose base salary for the month might be $450, that's like the max that people make, or $250 for a whole month. And I'm literally traipsing around the world without a thought of where I'm going next, how I'm gonna get there. I got my blue book. It's got pages available in it. How does that sound? Like, it didn't occur to me that I'm sitting here living in another country for 7 months, paying rent in a place in advance, whatever the case may be, eating out, or going to the grocery and buying food, cabinet full, whenever I need something, just going and getting it, saying that I don't have much. I'm broke too, man. I had to learn some lessons, right? So what happens is you have people that will ask you for money or whatever, and that's a lot of times when it comes out. It's like, I don't have it. Like, and I remember this guy came up to me while I was in Kenya, and I would always go to the beach, and I would either do my yoga class, or I'd run, whatever, and I'd stop at this local store. So I always wanted to patronize the locals for the things that I could get from the local little street stores and stuff like that, and not get that stuff from the major grocery outlets, right? To support locals. And this guy walked up and was like, hey sister, can you give me some money or whatever? And I was just like, no, I don't have it. And normally people just go on, thank you, whatever, and move on. And he kept coming back, and we were trying to get this lady had just gotten into town, and I was getting her acclimated to the community, which is something that I do as well. If I'm in a place and you come somewhere, I do have programs that I will set up to get you your SIM card, get you set up with housing if I can, assist you, find somebody that can take you around if you're looking for places, if you haven't set something up, just different things, just getting you acclimated and meeting people that I may know, that's something I did in Kenya. I could easily do it in Tanzania. I could do it in different places. I've stayed at least a month minimum. And so he kept coming over, and he was just like, sister, and I was like, and at this point I'm agitated, because I'm just like, why do you keep walking up on me like this, like, all in my space, and like challenging me to give him money? And I was like, I don't have any money to give you. And he did this. He was like, he had glasses on. He took his glasses up, and he was like, that set me off, because you're not gonna count my coin. Okay, right? But he was like, yes you do, you here. Well, touche. Touche. He was wrong for being in my face, but he was right because in his mind, the fact that you're a foreigner and you've been here and you know, at that point, I think I've been there maybe 3 months because I stayed 6 months my second time. Well, not my second time. Yeah. When I got back to the coast in Kenya, I ended up staying for 5 more months. And so, rightfully so, he was right because, yeah, I do have it. But I didn't have it to necessarily give to him. I was still budgeting and doing whatever. But it didn't occur to me how that sounds to someone who's barely making it, right? That I could have a home base somewhere else. Now, they don't know my situation. They don't know I have a house or anything like that. You know, don't know my situation, but they know that I am living somewhere on a tourist visa, paying for visas, walking around, and I can't just give them some spare change. So I understood that didn't mean I was gonna give them any money, but it made me think about how I respond, right? It also made me think about how I present myself, right? It was something that when I was in Tulum was a big deal because I stayed in anywhere I go, I pretty much stay in neighborhoods. Like in a neighborhood now, I'm not in a touristy area. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's just buildings. But I'm in like regular degular neighborhoods, right? With locals. And so to me, like, that's cool, but and like here I don't know that they can really tell until I speak. You know, they can't necessarily look at me because there's so many black and brown people around here, and this is probably one of the most diverse places I've ever been in my entire, including Africa. This is probably the most diverse place, so they can't really tell. But when they do know that you're different and they see you every day, they know that you're there, right? And so not everybody's gonna come up, and there's a lot of people just great, like, man, that's awesome what you're doing, it's awesome to see you and stuff like that. But what I did find is over time, eventually everybody that I was associated with in some way wanted a favor. They wanted something from me. They wanted me, hey, can you help me, you know, with my car note? I got a baby, you know, I just, you know, just different things. And you're just like, well, why are you asking me for money? And it's not to diminish what they're doing because it's still somebody begging from you, but it's to think about how we represent ourselves. So like I was saying, when I was in Mexico, when I was in Tulum specifically, I made it a huge point to look like an everyday person, like I what we would call boning. And I was like, but this is how I dress at home. This is how I dress in the house. So why do I have to be out like flossing? And so I learned quickly how people treat you when they see you with all kinds of things. Now, the only thing that I do, I've never taken this off, and I've had this on for 12 years, is this necklace. I've never, except when I get a massage and they make me take it off, and I hate it because I'm just like, you know, I don't want to lose it. I've had it forever, right? And my rings, that's it. But everything else is street bracelets. You know, you won't ever see me with name brand stuff on outside of maybe like some Levi jeans if that's what they got. But for the most part, like, you won't see me flossing a brand. Number one, unless they're paying me. That's something that I literally was just like, you know, unless I'm getting money for it, I'm not wearing nobody's name on my back, front, unless it's like thrift shop stuff, $2.99, which Thrift Giant in Dallas is fantastic for that. But yeah, I learned that I would say those kinds of things, and this person is looking at where I'm staying. Like when somebody saw the house I was staying at, not realizing that I talked the owner down like $900 to rent it, right? It's still more than what that person driving that Bajaji tuk-tuk would make in 2 months. But for me, I'm thinking, "Psh, man, I can't afford to pay what they were asking," and I talked it down. But realizing that even that is a privilege. The fact that I'm in a whole nother country paying rent somewhere, and one of my drivers, he had asked me, he was like, "How much are you paying for that house? I can get you something somewhere else." And, and I was like, okay, but, I know the people, I'm comfortable with them, because a lot of it's comfort for me. And that's one of the reasons why I would not allow people to drop me off in front of my house, because I didn't want them to see my money, because then people start spending your money, right? I just want you to think I'm basic. I'll walk around everywhere. No, you don't see me popping in cabs, because, whatever. Most people would be like, "Oh, we know you walking. Hey, Holly, we know you walking today. How you doing?" You know what I'm saying? And so I had to learn some lessons that even what I considered, living minusculely, which I think I do, if I'm trying to keep my expenses for accommodations at $10 to $15 a night, that's like minimum, right? You know what I'm saying? That's still more. It's still more, right? Shana, you said, "I feel like I show my American privilege when eating out. The food arrives and I start asking for extra." Listen, I don't know if the extra stuff is showing American privilege, because you go to places and they got a had a polenta over here. I don't know what they call it or whatever. But then they got their little dishes, and then they had this, and and I've seen them, and I'll just be like, "Oh, okay, y'all do all of that, so I ain't gonna feel bad when I want some peppers and extra thing of limes, and because I know y'all not gonna prepare it this way, so can I get the little extras?" Let me just tell you, I got a little container of seasoning that I take with me. I carry it in my purse. Y'all are not going to ruin my food craving that I'm having because y'all ain't putting the seasoning on it. I bring my own seasoning. It's all right. I was challenged for money that way in Belize. Really? Oh, in Belize City. Okay, how long did you stay in Belize City? Because it's not a place that I've only been to Belize City once, and it was more like a tour through the city, kind of to get somewhere else. And I've never actually stayed within the city itself. I've either been south, I was in Placencia, and then I was in San Pedro, and I've been in Caye Caulker. And those are the only places I've been in Belize. But never stayed in Belize City. And I know people always talk about these cities and how bad they are and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I'm in Colombia and I got videos. Like, it's like I'm in a regular neighborhood in the United States, right? I was in Mexico City. It was like a regular neighborhood. Of course, you run into some places. Like today I was walking and and I was like, because I don't know, like people were kind of looking at me, but it was also, how you end up walking through a place and you're kind of like, I wonder if this is an area I shouldn't be in. So I know probably we don't walk at night. I was over by a big park, but it looked like an area where everybody throws their garbage and all of that. So I crossed the street because I was like, and then I didn't see anybody else walking. I was like, is this like not a thing? I'm just trying to gauge. I want to gauge the neighborhood. I want to gauge, like, are people out? Is it comfortable? Do you see other women walking? So you see older people out and things like that. Just kind of get a feel for it. Eventually I did, but at first I was just like, maybe it's somewhere I'm supposed to be or whatever, right? But just trying to blend in from that perspective. But I hear all the time how there's places that, we as Americans, everything is dangerous. But I'm just like, we live in the United States as Black people. Can't be too much more dangerous than that, right? Okay. Anyway. Okay, so that, right? Saying things about money. Discounting people's coin. I was in Ecuador, and I was doing a tour with somebody to the middle of the world, however they say that, where you're at 000 plane, you hit the equator, right? And we went, and I don't think I paid because my driver, he would never take the money until the end or whatever. And it was like $40 that he charged me, and I had a personal driver, and I normally don't do tours, and When I would do tours with groups, I always end up meeting people that I end up hanging out with and stuff. But as of late, I've kind of been more into, I don't want to be crammed into like a bus or whatever. I'll just pay for a driver by myself, and yes, you pay a little bit extra, but that I can move around the way I want. You know, I can kind of do what I want to do, how I want to do it. Say, okay, I'm ready to go. So I paid, like, it was like $40, but that didn't include the ticket to get in. And he was somebody that I met the first day I got there. He was my Uber driver, and so he just drove me around a lot of different places. So I ended up paying for his ticket, which was like $5. Subconsciously knowing that that $40 he got that day, and he was taking me around for like almost a half a day, when he could do 2 Uber rides from the airport and almost make that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking consciously about that, right? But when we pulled in, the cost to park was like $3. And he was like, man, the price has gone up. And I was like, well, what the hell was it before? Right? I was like, oh, I was like, what? The parking lot? I was like, oh, that's pretty cheap. And he was like, no, it's not. And I was like, wow. Right? He didn't take offense because he knew I wasn't trying to be offensive. But those are little things that we don't know. You know, example, when we go someplace, like pretty much everything here is inexpensive. Like I can go and today I ended up having breakfast after my walk, and I got these avocado. I went to a vegan place, and one would say that it's more American price, but it was avocado pancakes, which is the bomb. They had bananas and strawberries, and they put with syrup, you know, and all kinds of stuff on there you can top it with, and a matcha tea and a shot of ginger. It came up to $31,900 plus a tip, and their tips are like $1. Not $1, like 2,000 pesos, which is less than 50 cents. But they asked, do you want to add it in, right? Just say yes, right? Because they added in. So let's say it came up to 33,000, something like that. 33,000 divided by 5 is like $6.10. My whole meal, that gourmet meal, I'll show y'all a picture of it, came up to $6, right? Typically, if I go and get a coffee or something, I'll get a coffee, maybe a croissant or whatever, and I'm sitting in a place for hours working, using their Wi-Fi. It'll be $1.40, $2.14. So one of the things that we do, when somebody told me to stop doing this when I was in Tanzania, stop converting the cost of something to USD, because it's always going to seem cheaper. So we're always going to respond with, oh, that's it? Oh, that's all it costs? Oh my God, that's cheap. You know what I'm saying? We can't do that, y'all. It is tough. Like I always have to make sure my face don't be like, damn, that's it. You know what I'm saying? Little bitty things that, and it's not a negative privilege, but it's a thing that we don't realize, that even saying something like $5 is not a big deal. $5 here is 25,000 pesos, COP, 25,000. You know what 25,000 pesos can buy a family? Like rice, I mean, like it can buy enough food probably for an entire week, and it's only $5, right? So those kinds of things, like not even being conscious of and the way to be conscious, because you'll be like, well, how the hell will I know? You know, it's my fault that they charge so little. You know, I'm excited I ain't spending all that money, but that's how you know. Is when if you're paying for what is equivalent to $4 in an upscale, vegan, clean, everything, you know, restaurant, something like that, then you know that the average person who eats and has breakfast, when you walk by these donut shops, these places where everybody, it's filled with locals, they are spending $2,000 for 4 donuts. 2,000 COP is not even 50 cents. For 4 donuts. So when you start to like pay attention to the other things, you'll be like, but then they see you spending 25,000 and thinking that's cheap. It's just that awareness. We were staying in Placencia, but my ex is building a house in Boise City. He left me in the truck outside of the bank, and an old man beat on the car until he returned with money to give him. Oh wow. So he just expected or assumed that your ex would give him money because y'all were in a, you looked like you had a couple dollars to spare. Oof. Four of us took a taxi to the port, and I paid what I thought was the per person rate, not knowing that that was a full cost for everyone. It be getting us, and there's nothing wrong with the thing I think makes us look bad is when we continuously do something, you know, that we know is not favorable because we American, or I'm from wherever. And it's not just Americans, y'all, but I'm only talking about Americans. I ain't thinking about Australians because they just as bad. They even worse. They even worse. No joke. They floss their money like it ain't nothing. But I'm just saying, as American passport holders, these are some of the things. This was in Cancun. He knew my ex would pay him. Okay. And that's what happens sometimes, like you get cornered. And so one of the other things that I wanted to share. Okay, so I haven't even got through this list yet. All right, so when we realize the fact that we are living somewhere else, that's privilege. I talked about that earlier. We talk about what locals, can and cannot get a passport. We'll be like, how much is your passport? When I was in Kenya, talking to my housekeeper, and I would always tip her extra, and then I would tell her she wouldn't have to do all this stuff, but she would be working for like 20 hours. I'm like, I don't need you to do this. I'm washing my dishes. Like, I hate it when I wash my own dishes. I'm gonna pay you. You get paid the same. So I don't need you to do all that. Just do the laundry because I ain't got no washing machine. You do the laundry, fix my bed, and that's cool. Whatever. You do clothes too. You know what I'm saying? And I would always, always, always tip. Once I found out that how much money she made per hour, it was like $4.80. Or for the it's a car. I thought it was like one of them big bees flying by. For a whole cleaning day, for like cleaning an apartment, was $4.80. It was 10,000 or 15,000 Kenya shilling. You calculate that, and that's you like 10,000 is no 10,000 in. I'm sorry. 10,000 in Tanzanian shilling is $4.84. It was more 1-to-1 with US, so if it was 1,000, it was $1, right? 10,000 was like $10, so it was like, yeah, right. So if it was 15, she would, that's how much she'd be making, basically $10 for the entire cleaning. And I was just like, for a whole week, and you come back how many times a week? Stuff like that, right? And so having conversations around traveling. So we were talking about she wanted her daughter to come to the U.S. to have opportunity. And she's like, at least she could stay in your caretaker home. And I was like, we ain't got caretaker homes. I was like, y'all upscale over here. Like, regular people got caretakers and drivers. Y'all saw that in my last video. I talked about that. 12 more things Americans may not know when you travel. And a lot of people, they got servants. They have it's not even a class system. You just have this. People don't have cars. You got a driver, and that's just how it is. But they pay such pennies. They charge us a lot, but they pay pennies because they're locals, right? This is just stuff to know. Listen, I be learning a lot. But she basically was like, yeah, we can't, the cost for us to get a passport, and the requirement to get into the U.S., you have to have a sponsor. Somebody has to write a letter, and you can't just come over. You have to come over and be going somewhere. So you know how we just come and we just pop up somewhere and we just stay. They can't do that. They have to have a reason. They have to have a sponsor. They have to have somebody that they're staying with to be able to even leave, to apply for a visa. As if they already have a passport. And then the cost, like somebody told me in Tanzania that the amount of money that they had spent was over like $500, and they still didn't get their passport because the government can kind of, was just like, all right, well, you don't have this, you got to pay this much money. So they don't have certain things regulated. It's not just a flat fee. Like, they go through hoops and bells and whistles. So it is really a privilege when they actually get one. So when we go and say, you know, have you ever traveled, or why don't you travel? Ask it in a way you can ask the question so that you're informed, but ask it in a way that isn't demeaning, right? I learned those lessons. We blame our carelessness on locals and crime, right? Like, crime is crime. So if you walk around and somebody steals your phone, you know, that's crime is crime. But oftentimes we're very careless. And what happens is you know, and this isn't with every situation, but sometimes people target you because you make it clear that, and this isn't always the case. I know some people just do things, but when you're someplace that they say don't have your phone out because somebody will steal it, but everybody local has their phone out. Like, I mean, without it connected, I keep mine connected, and you know, and all of that. And I'm just like, okay, so is it because of the nonchalantness? You know, you're walking around and you look like you're not paying attention, or are you flaunting, or whatever, right? So understanding and being aware and being conscious of the things, how careless we may be, and then blaming an entire society of people because of our carelessness. And I'm talking about when we are being careless. I'm not talking about every situation, right? So those, to me, that's just, when we don't take ownership for some of the things that we create, the situations that we create, like men coming to Columbia. This is the thing that I see all the time. Blog after YouTube video about men being drugged by women because they went drinking and they got drunk. Not to say that the woman is wrong, not wrong, because she clearly is. You don't rob people, you know, all that. But come on, it's like a million videos about this. How are y'all still doing it? It's almost the same as how people still walking around getting women pregnant while they married, and then the mistress has a baby and they go. I'm sorry, I got derailed. I got sidetracked. My bad. Somebody might come at me for that example. Okay, and then I think my last two things, y'all. Oh, I already talked about we don't follow local culture, like we don't prepare ourselves for what that culture is. So we walk into a space and we're agitated about something. Like, I mean, there are certain things like being here that I just am like, please, not tonight. The noise ordinances that they don't have. But at night, like, I swear, it's like I close the window and I can sleep through the night, like, very peacefully. Weekends are worse, of course, because when they have party buses, they have party buses. They will sit and they'll sing at like 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock when I was in the other area. They would be right outside my apartment, or my room that I was renting. And same time every night, it would be a group and they would be singing a cappella. And when I say singing a cappella, you could probably hear them from there all the way to where I am now. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, why? Why are y'all so loud? Why is everything so loud? And they're very impatient here. Like, it's this thing, like just honking horns. Sometimes it's to let you know, please don't go across the street. But if the light hasn't turned green yet and you ain't started rolling, they honk their horn. Like, slow down, Pippin. That's not a cultural thing. That's just how they are here. But like cultural things like knowing to remove your shoes from a place, knowing in China they smack. It's a way that they show respect. Knowing that most people don't have a drink sitting there when they eat their food. Knowing that when you sit at a table and there's 4 chairs, 3 other people you don't know probably gonna come and sit with you. That's not necessarily. It's just knowing the culture so you don't freak out and go, what are you doing? And you know, all those kinds of things. Different things like in Muslim countries, I'll just say in Tanzania, learning that you don't shake hands with your left hand because that's the hand. I just did this because that's the hand you wipe with. So it's disrespect. Like if you just, and I mean, I don't know who does it. I think it's your left hand. Like if you go and you grab somebody's hand, don't do that. And so you just learning that that is a no-no. That's a level of disrespect. Like you just disrespected somebody by trying to grab their hand with your left hand because they think that because they have a wipe and a wash situation with the water. That's how they actually cleanse themselves with in the toilet. It's a whole different thing. Some places knowing that you don't get a fork or you don't get chopsticks, you eat with your hands. That's the cultural thing that they do. And so, just little things, adapting to an environment, learning a few words as you're going. I was sitting at the coffee shop that I was at, that I like to frequent this morning, and the girl came over and you could tell that she's learning English. And so she gave me the menu. Sometimes I'll go ahead and ask for it in Spanish so I can help kind of translate, but I got it in English this time. And so, but when I requested the meal, I asked for some things in Spanish. I use, Spanish to say a few things. You learn a little vocabulary. You go and work on a little Spanglish. Now, I mean, when I say it, I ain't say it right. But one of the things I do when I find somebody like that, I immediately go, okay, como se dice? How do I say, I want to say almond milk. They put almond behind, so they put the descriptor of what it is behind the subject of what it is. So milk is what you want, but you want a certain type of milk, right? So I wanted matcha con leche de almendras, right? And so I've learned to say that, right? It don't roll off my tongue because it still sounds American, but she knew what I was saying, right? She knew what I was saying. And so I before I said it, I said, como se dice? She was saying on the side, and it's like llevar, but I say llevar, like I say it, and that's not it. It's like, and it's llevar, something like that. It's basically saying, have it on the side, part of llevar. Or part of llevar is to go. It's something on the side. It's the way that she said it, right? Somebody tell me how to say it in Colombian Spanish. Erica, if you come on, tell me how to say it. Erica's like the queen of learning this language. But then she asked me, she said, como se dice? What she said, what are the words? So she knows como se dice, because she said she knew what I was saying. But she said, what is that in English? And I was like, oh, it's how do you say? And she was like, she couldn't say how. And I was like, oh my God, like how we struggle with letters and stuff like that, realizing that things, sounds, and different things that we do are not part of their culture or their language or the way that they, I'm telling you, travel is, I literally every time I'm just like, I'm learned every day, right? And so she was like, I was like, how do you say? And I realized I was still saying it too fast, right? I was still saying it too fast. And she couldn't get it. And I was like, how? She said, how? They don't what? They don't have that whole, they don't, I guess. I mean, I ain't never really heard it, right? So I said, how do, como se dice is, how do you say? And she said, what? So when she came back to give me some of my food, she was like, how do you say? I love it, right? Those are the things that I absolutely live for. And it's also, I genuinely love it, but I think it also really sets the graces. And I also normally will tip a little extra, give them a 2,000 mil bill, which is again less than 50 cents, directly to the person that you're assisting. You can give them more if you want, right? It's up to you. But I try to make sure I just wave and acknowledge the person who specifically helped me. But everybody is so sweet, so kind, and all of that. I mean, it's just, anyway, it's amazing. Shana, you said, I also have a bad habit of comparing local prices to USD. That's saying and behaving as if it's super affordable and inexpensive. Yeah, and it's just to be aware. It's just to be aware of it when we do it. There's nothing wrong with it because we calculate. We are making a comparison. Most people in America ask me, okay, well, how much is that compared, how am I saying? Is it really a third less? Well, in order to do that, I got to do the math. I got to do the calculation in my head. But it's being able to turn that off when you're walking around. Because a lot of times you'll be like, well, you need to negotiate. Don't be accepting price. I'm like, you negotiate what? We at $1.80. What you want to? They're like, yeah, but when you do that, Americans do that. You guys tip and stuff, and you throw it off for everybody else. And I'm like, you just told me these people make less than $8 a day, and they're out here all day long. And you're telling me I can't tip them because it's gonna mess up the ecological balance? That's privilege. I still be tipping them. No, I just do it a different way. That's why I say only like little increments. I walk around with, change that I don't want to take with me. They tell you in places don't give people cash because it makes the situation worse, but sometimes I do. They sell like the bags you can buy like candy or whatever. I never want the candy. I just, give them the cash, especially if it's a mother or something like that, right? My privilege has me asking for a fork, but now I think I'll invest in travel utensils. What you mean invest in travel utensils? Like I have my own straws and stuff like that. But I realized that where was I? Ecuador? They don't give out straws because they're not. People say that places say they're not plastic friendly, but they have plastic bags, so it throws you off of plastic containers, and everything in the store is plastic or it's wrapped in cellophane, so it throws you off a little bit. But I don't think they do straws. I'm trying to think if that's where I was or if it was Panama, and they don't do straws. And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna carry around my straw because I don't always like to put my mouth on the glass if I didn't wash it. Because if ain't nobody else using straw, everybody put their mouth on their glass. I don't know why it's appearing multiple times. Nothing showed up multiple times on my end. But yeah, thank you for sharing. I hope some of you other folks that are on watching, you guys share some of your experiences as well. And if you're a new traveler, does any of this help? And it's not to make you go, oh my gosh, well, I ain't gonna make it. It's to just make you more informed so that you have an enjoyable experience, right? And I understand this is why a lot of times people do tours or they have somebody set everything up for them and stuff like that. If you know that you're going to be going somewhere and you're going to start, you're considering long-term living, you kind of got to start mingling with, some of the people. One of the things that I was my first time really being exposed to this was in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam last year. When you go to the grocery store, you'd see expats, foreigners, and they always had like a local person with them. And that local person would be pushing the cart, getting the food and all that, and they would be there kind of just walking and telling them what they wanted. And at first I was like, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Why they can't even get their own stuff? But I realized that a lot of these cultures are service oriented. They probably paying them pennies to do it, what we consider pennies, but for them, it's a livelihood. It's a way of life. It's a job that they have. It's a service that they provide. So they take, could be the caretaker for the house, whatever. They go with them, and some of it is translating for them as well, getting things that they need. I mean, my last video, one of the things I talked about that a lot of times as Americans we don't get when we go other places is that the expectations that you got to ask somebody. That's a service. When I was in Tanzania, and I was going from Lushoto to Tanga, and we're trying to catch a bus back. And our driver who did a tour for us that took us to the waterfalls and all that, said, okay, I can get you on the bus. It's, we drive to a certain point and get on the bus there. And then you pull up and there's a guy sitting there. It's kind of like when you roll up here and you're getting ready to park, there's somebody sitting there to assist you backing in. Not that you need assistance, but you drop them a couple points. That's what he's doing. They even have jackets on, it could be ladies, whatever, right? They're parking attendants, technically, right? But everything becomes a service. And so this guy was like, let me see if we can get you on, on the bus. And so basically you just go to spots. And if you could speak the language, you could literally be like, are there any open spots on the bus? And, go buy your ticket and everything. What he does is he comes on and he's like, well, there's not two seats together, but this bus has seats and y'all can jump on. It'll be coming in 20 minutes or whatever. And then what he wanted money for that. We didn't know. We just thought that it was a guy's friend. Like, this is like you culturally learn these things. And I was like, okay, so he went and bought tickets at the ticket booth, which we could have done ourselves, or whatever. But because he provided that service, you pay them for that. And then you just, don't know what to pay. So, and he kind of frowned and we were just like, okay, give me more than that. And I was, he could speak enough English to say that. But one of the things I want to say is be prepared. When you touch something, if you're asking somebody a question, if you're asking directions, they're going to want money. There will be people sitting outside the restroom. They ain't giving you toilet paper. They ain't opening the door for you. They ain't even watching nothing, but they expect you to hand them some money. I was in Egypt and my tour guide was like, oh yeah, you customarily give them money. I said, for what? Literally was I was like, for what? I still had to bring my own toilet paper. And they were like, well, they just sit outside the door. I said, so these men sit outside the women's bathroom and want us to give them money and they don't even do nothing. I'm sorry if that offended anybody. But those are some of the things, right? Excuse me, like cultural things that as an American or as a person who functions on my own very well, that is probably one of the hardest things for me, especially living places long term where women are not considered decision makers, right? There should be a man. Where's the man at? Where's the man at? Just be asking these questions, or they will completely ignore you, right? Because you're a woman, you know what I'm saying? And it's a cultural thing. It's not necessarily personal. It might be, but it's probably not personal. It's just they don't deal with women. I don't deal with women. I don't talk to a woman. That's not how we were raised. And when you spend enough time someplace, you'll understand it. Like you'll understand the groundwork, how little bitty things are the things that create these systems and cultural things that you have to adjust to. Said I have my own straw, but they sell travel utensils too. Grocery shopping assistance is definitely a service I would pay for. Okay, see? So you'd fit in well, and he was just like the man waiting outside. Oh, sorry about that, you guys. Looks like my things said reconnecting. So anyway, I really, 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 really hope this is helpful. Not knowing the way that we come across other people and places and things like that can have a detriment. That's ultimately the bottom line. It can have a detriment on our experience, on what happens from point A to point B, how somebody perceives something. We can't be so powerful and then be so neglectful, in my opinion, unless you are traveling with like a DJ Khaled or Beyonce and Jay-Z entourage, and you ain't never got to speak to anybody, on those levels or whatever. I get it. You might not need to concern yourself, but as a regular everyday person, if you're moving like I'm moving, it's important to know how our privilege sets us apart, how we look different, how our normal everyday behavior of not thinking about things actually can have an impact, whether it's positive or negative, on the people where we are going to be. So it just behooves us to at least know it, right? To at least know some of the things that impact the people that we are kind of enforcing ourselves on. We're putting ourselves in these places, and it would be good if we actually wanted to learn a little bit about them. Learn a little, whether we like it or not, because how you know if you like something if you really don't know how it ticks, how it flows, right? All right, anyway, y'all, I hope this is helpful. And if anybody else is on, because I see other people are on, Shanna, thank you so much for sharing all your experiences. If anybody else If you guys want to add some things, please let me know. If you guys are interested in doing the Discord chat group, um, joining, being a part of a Patreon community that I am working to create, please, do a thumbs up with a P, a thumbs up with a D, for, Discord. You want to do the chat. And again, for anybody who's coming in, after I described it, basically the chat will allow us to have non-bot, like it's I decide who's going to be a part of the community and that kind of thing. So you can regulate it. You don't have these open channels where people can just type anything or be in it or be disrespectful and degrading. I want us to have a space where we can talk about some of the things that we can't really say. I can't say everything. I can't give every example. I can't talk about every scenario in a public platform. You just can't do it. And that's another thing, is privilege. That's the first thing I was talking about, is freedom of speech. We can't say any and everything. Like, I can't be in let's say a Muslim country and be degrading Muslim religion and post it on YouTube. People have done that. People have been in Bali and they're banned from Bali because they get that stuff. They see, like, we have to be conscious of the things that we do. There's a price and a penalty for everything. It's just whether or not you're willing to pay it. Thank you, Shana. Hey, Colette, what's up, girl? Colette said, I'm late to the live. I will watch the replay. Yes, please do let me know if you want to be a part of the community I'm planning on creating. A couple other things. Let me just roll through some of the stuff that's going to be rolling out. It's almost Christmas time. Y'all, I got a birthday coming up in a week. What's today? A little over a week. What is today? Is today the... Now I'm just trying to figure out, is my watch reading it the way that they write it or the way... So today's the 11th, right? So my birthday's in 7 days. Really? Oh, today's Sunday. Yeah, my birthday's next Sunday. All right, y'all. I'm having a moment. Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna, hopefully before Christmas, I'm trying to roll out a couple things that'll be on, available on Amazon for you guys in the travel world. There'll be a couple of journals, but they're going to be different journals. They're activity journals, so they're tracking, allowing you to track your experience as well as journal about it. And then one that is more of a journal and doesn't have all of the bells and whistles and the fun games and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be rolling those couple of things out. So please stay tuned for that. And then some other merchandise things, my party globe that one of the other sisters told me I need to roll out with both Sonia and Sandra. Sonia Unapologetics YouTube channel. She actually has rolled out her journals as well as her merchandise that has Bopping Around the World. I think something like that, Bopping Don't Stop or something like that. She actually rolled that out, so you guys go and check that out on her page. I think you can find the merchandise on her YouTube, and then the journals are on Amazon. And then Sandra is from Lack to Legacy, and she does her live trading, I think, on Thursdays and Fridays. So make sure you sign up for that, so you guys can get in on the live trading thing if that's something that interests you. She actually does a really good job of explaining. I don't know all this stuff. I haven't decided if I even want to do it, but I mean, she literally be breaking stuff down with the candlesticks and all that stuff. So please check her out. She does this for free on YouTube, for you guys to follow along on her trading days, Thursdays and Fridays. And I think she actually has a journal too. She has a trading journal for you guys to track what you're doing every day now. So we are out here just trying to make a dollar out of 15 cents, a dime and a quarter. Okay. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. I appreciate the efforts, and I appreciate the support more than anything. People living their lives and doing you is actually the inspiration that I need. Is actually what kicked me in the butt when I'm just like, oh, get on it. These are the things that you've been doing that you aren't doing. Like getting up this morning and getting my 10,000 steps in before I sat down and got in this computer. Because once you do that, it's a wrap. It's a wrap, y'all. So anyway, I'm probably gonna do something where I'm gonna do a poll and ask you guys to share how you guys, how do you get things done? Like, do you have a routine to do things, to, get started, when you're trying to get refocused? Do you have things to do? And then stay tuned, because next month I'll be moving somewhere else and doing something that is a part of my not necessarily every day, but it's a part of my life, something that I've been doing, and I have an opportunity to do it in with another organization. So I'm looking forward to that. I just want to make sure I actually get there and it actually happens before I say I'm doing it and it doesn't actually come to fruition. So I appreciate you guys' support and everything. Y'all are awesome. Listen, Sugar said you got to get that money. Listen, and there's other things that I'm looking at too around that. And once I get some of this stuff moving, I want to be able to share different things that we could be doing. And one thing I'm just gonna say it out loud right now, is consider whole life insurance policies as a safety net. Consider getting whole life insurance policies as a safety net, right? Sit on them for 20, 30 years. Okay. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here, you guys. I appreciate y'all jumping on and tuning in to the conversation. Hopefully, the YouTube automatically chapters this. I don't know how it will, because I kind of jumped around a little bit, but I'm hoping that this helps you guys prepare for your own personal journey, whether it's in a plane, on a train, in a bus, or a car, whatever. That is what I am here for, to help you guys get past the honeymoon stage of short travel and the fear of, get you through that stage and past the fear of long travel. So I'm going to get out of here. Y'all know the drill. Toodles and noodles. Peace and hair.